just love the weather where we live and not want to move somewhere else, especially for winter months.
I say we put a snowblower in the back of a truck and drive south until somebody asks what it is.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
And then we lay roots down there.
It's like, you don't know what this is? Perfect.
Yeah. That house for sale?
Timeshare? Can I come here in the winter?
Alright.
Hi everyone, welcome to Deadhouse. We're finally back.
Yay!
This is the second to last, almost? No, third to last dummy book that we're doing. So today it is Revenge of the Living Dummy, which we both have copies of.
Yes.
And the next one is going to be Slappy New Year. And then Son of Slappy will be the final in the dummy series that we're covering. And then we're going to have a special bonus video for you. So stay tuned closer to that as that date gets further up.
Yes.
I would tell you what month this is and whether this was the 15th or the end of the month, but I can't do that because we're filming so sporadically lately. It's mainly because it's been harder to get together because winter transportation has been terrible. Twice now we filmed while trying to race storms, and then we had another huge storm followed by a state of emergency.
It's been going around online that we received a Shaquille O'Neal in snow. Just to give you an idea.
You know, it's...
In one day.
In one day. Plus another like 20 2 days later.
Alright. So we've been shoveling.
Yeah, and by 20 I mean centimeters. We're in Canada.
Yeah.
This is, yeah. Today we're getting into it.
We are.
This is a classic horror title that doesn't have a classic horror plot.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it does in terms of different elements that are involved. And it really does a lot of varying doll elements, which is really nice to see.
There's a bit of an anthropology hint in it as well, which I liked.
Yeah. This was first published April 2008. It is #1 in the HorrorLand series. And we start with the most alliterative name I've ever heard since J. Jonah Jameson. We're introduced to Brittany and her friend Molly Malloy, and man, that is an opening sentence. It says, "You may wonder why my best friend Molly Malloy and I were in an old graveyard late at night." That's a good opening sentence.
That's a gripping opening.
And it starts us off with some great atmosphere.
I actually didn't know the atmosphere. I was entering into the story.
Well, we start and it's like pouring rain, it's slippery, they're covered in mud, it's dark and dank, they're digging a grave.
What's the grave for?
We don't know yet. We don't know anything. In fact, the whole thing ends with a jump scare.
We start with Brittany's family having the cousin Ethan come stay with them. And it seems like an extended stay because he takes part in volunteer work for school.
Yeah, there's a number of things about his stay that I think we'll get into later.
Yeah, just like a little sibling or somebody who's visiting, Brittany is encouraged to take him along with him wherever he goes and involve him in whatever he does to make him feel wanted, needed, and entertained. So they go over to Molly's house, and the interesting character of Molly's dad is brought in. He is an anthropologist researcher and he goes to Mumbai.
And what's really cool about this is you get to see some of the things he's collected from his journeys. And what I really like about this, two things I really liked about it actually, was one, that his profession is not only stated, but he's obviously good at his job. There's attention to detail there. Because he says, like, they're talking about how it's creepy and kind of like an old museum. But he says, oh, well, it has to be dimly lit because bright lights will ruin some of the artifacts.
Right.
And that's 100% true.
It is, yeah.
Which I thought was kind of awesome. And we get to learn so much about him and these different dolls. Like, it really makes you wonder if his job is going to come into play again later in the story. And it does, thankfully.
And there's one doll in particular that is kind of scary. It is the Mind Stealer. And if you touch it, the eyes glow, and it steals your mind.
Yeah, you hear this buzzing noise as well,
Right.
and then your mind goes blank.
Right, so the kids had a lot of fun kind of teasing each other with this doll. Nothing really comes of it. It's just kind of briefly introduced.
Yeah, and I sort of noted here that there was like a really lame jump scare, because all the jump scares, well, in most Goosebumps books, but especially in this book, except for that first chapter one, are very instantly resolved next sentence. And the chapters here are only 2 to 3 pages. They're such short chapters compared to other Goosebumps stories that like any tension is literally instantly resolved.
Yeah.
And even though it uses modern technology, she has a cell phone. I was disappointed that like she hears the buzz of the cell phone because she'd just been frightened. And jostled the container bit, so she thinks the mind stealer is taking her mind. And it was just so lame. It was just so lame. I just couldn't.
It was good.
I mean, I guess, but it was very lame.
Yeah, for sure.
It was quite the groaner.
It was, yes. Soon after that jump scare, Brittany and Ethan have to go back to Brittany's house for dinner. And this is where we're introduced to Mr. Bad Boy. This is Ethan's ventriloquist dummy that he has brought with him for his stay. He's got bad jokes, and Brittany's already not happy with the dummy.
Only because Ethan has barely been there and he's already carting it everywhere, including to her friend Molly's house.
Right.
But, I mean, side note, her dad does say, I think I've seen that dummy somewhere before.
Side note.
Side note.
We'll get back to that.
AKA foreshadowing.
Right. Brittany's encouraged to go and watch Ethan's ventriloquist act because Brittany's mom says he has no friends, obviously, if he's making this dummy talk and he's playing with this dummy so much, so go be nice.
Yeah, and this is kind of a really nice thing.
Yeah.
We're also going to see Brittany's parents become increasingly sympathetic to Ethan and let him get away with things that they wouldn't normally let their own child get away with.
Right.
And even blame her for not, being more sympathetic towards him. And this is going to happen increasingly, and she's going to get in trouble for his bad behavior later on. And it's mostly because Ethan's in a weird situation that we're not fully introduced to, but it does say later that like he starts going to school, to a middle school there, because he's going to be staying with them indefinitely.
Right, because they don't really go into that.
No, but whatever's happened, he's like an abandoned child. So it suddenly makes sense why they're catering to him so much and why they're like trying to cook their best meals and, give him this lovely big space instead of the smaller room. And
For sure. During the act, Brittany's insulted and she's kind of not impressed. But
she thinks the jokes are lame, but she thinks he's funny and a
Right.
good ventriloquist.
Right. So she does invite him to come with her to the seniors' home to do like a second part of the volunteer experience that she's doing. She's going to be teaching them how to paint a sunset, and he'll do an act. So they need to do some sort of volunteer work for their school.
Yeah.
And she figured, this will go over well because
It's actually a really good act in terms of like how well he does. And she's not bothered by how insulting the jokes are. She thinks they're lame.
Yeah.
But for the most part, she finds his antics really funny.
And he's good at what he's doing.
And this is a really big twist for this. Because even though like Ethan does act a bit scared at the end of their interaction, is trying to like tell her Mr. Bad Boy's alive, she doesn't believe it.
No.
And she's all like, this is totally a trick.
Yep.
But also, the kids never get along with each other in this way.
No. They're always kind of at each other.
Yeah, and they always find the jokes insulting. But in this case, she doesn't.
No.
And she actually does get a really good laugh out of them, which gets her in trouble with her parents.
Especially at dinner when Ethan sets up Mr. Bad Boy at the table and the jokes continue. And she starts laughing uncontrollably, and the parents are not impressed with this.
Not even a little.
Moving forward a little bit more, Brittany gets home from school and notices that 2 of her possessions are ruined.
Yes.
And it's a poster and a picture that she painted herself. The poster is important because it talks about it a little bit earlier when she was moving from her other room to her new room. Ethan says that he took that part of the poster that band made because that was his favorite.
Yeah, and he didn't want her to take that poster to the room. He wanted to keep it there.
So that's kind of a targeted attack on her.
And she goes up to the room and she thinks she's going to find Ethan there.
Mm-hmm.
But she can hear water running, so she assumes he's in the bathroom or shower.
Yeah.
And that's when Mr. Bad Boy sits up. I put this down. This is page 44.
Okay.
I put down this quote because this gave me like very much Harry Potter vibes. Where it says, and uttered in a hoarse whisper, "I don't like you, Brittany!" All caps. And I totally had that moment of, he said calmly, "Did you put your name in the goblet of fire, Harry?" Movie Dumbledore versus book Dumbledore. In the book it says he says it very calmly and just asks, and in the movie he's like screams it at him from across the Great Hall.
Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
But this is like whispered in a hoarse voice, all caps, exclamation point, "I don't like you, Brittany!"
I'm done
Anyway.
That's it, I'm done for the video.
I just had a moment with that.
I was obviously rushing through the book a little bit because I'm reading during nap times. And I didn't make that connection, but when you were reading the line, all of a sudden it just came in. Okay, we're good. No.
You're still not done, right?
I'm not done.
It's really not that funny. We're just losing it. Oh, okay. So, after that, she tries to tell her parents what's actually going on.
Yeah, and they don't believe her, which is the normal stance for the parents in this story.
Yes. The parents are never going to believe that a dummy has come to life.
Absolutely not. It's ridiculous. It's not logical.
Which are things the parents literally say to her about it.
No, they didn't whisper it in all the caps, but, you know, the point was there. So the next morning, they're both, Ethan and Brittany and Mr. Bad Boy are coming downstairs to eat breakfast, and Brittany falls. She feels like she's been pushed. So this...
She actually has been pushed.
She has, yes.
And Ethan even tries to warn her. He's like, "Wait, Brittany, look out." And then she can feel the dummy's hands on her back. And then she's down over the steps.
Right. But we find out later that's not the dummy.
We do find that out later. Do you want to fast forward to when we find that out, or is there anything important in the plot we should mention here?
We're going to go plot first.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a second targeted attack on her, in her mind. That night, Molly calls Brittany all in a panic because her dad is out of the country, and his researcher called and said, "You have to get this head out of the house. It is not safe. It is dangerous.
It needs to be buried in grave dirt in order to nullify its power."
Right. So they decide to sneak out of the house, take this mind stealer, and bury it in the graveyard.
Right. And this actually goes fairly well.
It does.
This is the graveyard scene from the beginning of the book.
It is.
And because it's the scene from the beginning of the book, it doesn't waste any time getting to the hand behind the gravestone part.
Right.
That is also very instantly resolved, almost within the same sentence. Because she just says to him as she sees the hand, "Ethan," even though it pulls her, like, she's not as scared. She knows it's Ethan.
Right.
She's kind of used to his tricks, which is a little bit different from how it was introduced. Because when it's introduced at the beginning of the book, it's to let you know she has an overactive imagination. So even though she knows it's him right away, she had been imagining like other scenarios with the zombies at the beginning of the book.
So they end up burying the mind stealer, and they go home, and
Ethan thinks they had a grand adventure.
oh yeah, graveyard, late at night, sneaking out of the house, ticks all the boxes.
And it's worth noting too, this is the most time we've seen R.L. Stine, at least, you know, us personally so far, going through this series, leave a jump scare and not resolve that tension immediately or almost immediately. Like, this went on for chapters so that you were wondering what was happening at this grave. and what this hand was until just now.
And I like it. I like that it didn't follow the usual R.L. Stein
jump scare formula. Yep, me too.
Then we go to the old age home, the seniors home, and Brittany's painting goes well.
She's goes really very well.
She's nervous, but it goes well.
And by the end of it, she's got what she says is probably one of her best paintings. And by the end of it too, she's gotten more of the audience's attention than she had at the beginning.
Yeah.
And her aunt's all proud of her, and
then Ethan gets up. The seniors weren't impressed of his jokes. They were looking past his ability to be a ventriloquist and throw his voice and focusing more on the hardcore directed insults.
They're pretty lame, but also pretty bad insults.
They are, yeah.
But that's usually Slappy's thing. Yes. And in fact, everything so far that's been happening has been basically Slappy's main formula for how he disturbs stuff.
Yep.
The only thing that at this point I couldn't figure out if it fit in or not was the way he keeps saying, I'm a bad boy, because that's not his usual catchphrase anything.
No.
So it seemed kind of weird, and I wondered if he was just like doing that as a way to, like, I don't know, ploy Ethan into something, or because Ethan named him that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a little odd, and this is also the point where I came up with my theory that I hoped, at least, the doll was going to be used, the Mind Stealer, to wipe Slappy's mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was thinking that same thing.
I was like, and I hope the dad's job comes back into it, because sometimes things are mentioned at random to seem important in these books, and they go nowhere.
Yeah.
But these are things I'm happy to say both go somewhere.
Yes. So Brittany and Ethan both get reported to the school, and they're in a lot of trouble.
Especially Brittany, more so Brittany than Ethan.
Because Brittany set it up and invited Ethan to come along.
Yes, and so the owner of the home reasoned, well, she must have known what his act was going to be.
Yeah. And I mentioned that she got trouble because she's grounded and involves her sneaking out of the house again.
Yes, except this time she's sneaking out of the house, like, in an extra bad way because she's supposed to be grounded.
Yes. And they're going to have a look at the files of Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Because he was suspicious of Mr. Bad Boy from the beginning, knowing that he's seen him before.
And because he's still away, and Molly has been trying to get in touch with him and can't get a hold of him to find out more about the dummy for it, because Brittany has expressed her concerns at this point that he might be alive. So they break into their father's files.
And find the dummy in a picture. So the picture is, I don't have the date from when the picture is taken, but it has the same information that's in all of the books about how Slappy was made.
Yeah, so it mentions the, cursed coffin wood because it was a stolen coffin. It mentions it was made by a magician. It does not mention that the magician's spirit is in it. That's a thing that's been abandoned. Thank God. Because that was a bad plot.
And it mentions the 6 words to bring him to life and put him back.
It says also to put him to sleep.
Yes.
But keen readers of this series will pick up on that right away. This is a nod to the audience. To let the audience know, foreshadowing about what's going to happen. Because those words can't put him to sleep. They can only wake him up. So it's meant to make us think she's going to try to put him to sleep, and it's not going to work.
Right.
That's the setup.
The next day Brittany and Molly go to Ethan's room, and they're like, we're going to put this doll to sleep, and that's it. No more insults, no more pranks, no more anything. So they find Mr. Bad Boy in a leather armchair, and they read the words on the back of a photo.
Yep, and when they do, he jostles forward and slumps.
Right. That's it.
And they think, that's it, we did it, we put him to sleep.
Right. Done. But then Molly sees something in Ethan's jeans that are on the floor. It's a remote control that's not labeled, and she starts hitting buttons just like you would. And all of the insults and all of the things that Slappy was doing was being controlled by this remote. He wasn't alive.
They were putting things on repeat. So this raspy voice was actually the voice Ethan had made up for Mr. Bad Boy. And
Ethan has
he had
been
been playing this trick on her the whole time.
Yeah.
So this is something I wondered, because Slappy always shows up with no explanation of what has happened to him in the interim. But he's together. Yeah. He looks in decent shape, other than like his chip on his lip and different other identifying things. And I kind of wondered, like, how is he put back together? Like, why is there no mention of him ever having been sawed in half? And the reason is because he's been wired with electronics. He has a computer chip and wires put in him so that he can be moved with a remote control. So there's like, you know,
Slappy
little
2.0.
like, yeah, so there's like little gears in him and things like that now, and like stuff to make him move at least limitedly. Yeah. Not very strong, like on his own and things like that, like something to make his jaw move. And this is all really easy stuff to do and believable that a kid could do it, because there's these little like Arduino kits you can buy, and you can learn basic programming and learn how to do them and put it together. So I mean, this isn't out of the realm of possibility.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In junior high, when coding was more so becoming a thing, because we're a little older than middle school age students, I was learning Visual Basic and programming. And
Visual Basic is the main programming you need to do these little Arduino kits that can do different things.
Right, so there's no reason why a middle school student, when the book is written, wouldn't have that information, because
technology. It's 2008. Technology is there now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Brittany gets woken up in the middle of the night. And it's Slappy. And his famous phrase,
he's gonna make her his slave.
You're mine.
You said the words to wake me up. So, she did. She woke him up.
She did.
She made the evil dummy come to life. We are at the very end of chapter 18.
Yeah.
There's only a few pages left now. This was a very short story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is the first he's come to life.
His request is for that mind stealer.
Yes, so he's been hearing Ethan talk about it in his room.
And that's what he wants, because what else does a slave master want?
Then something to help enslave people around him. Take their minds, make them empty shells that can do whatever he wants.
Right, do his bidding. And Brittany says no, she's not going to go dig it up. And he's like, fine, well, I'll do it, and I will take your mind first. So Brittany does go back to the graveyard.
She follows him out, sees him dig it up, and she's so terrified by what's happening, she's late to react, to try to stop him.
Right. But before he can open the case,
she sees bright lights.
Right, so her parents actually followed her as she was following Slappy to the graveyard.
And this is just after she's tackled him.
Yes.
To stop him from opening the case.
And
so she's holding him like this over a grave.
So the parents think that she lost her marbles.
Right. So the dad is on the way home from the hockey game. This is how all of this happens, and she's able to go to the room with her friend Molly without Ethan being there and find the remote, because he's at a hockey game with her dad.
Yeah.
And when he gets home from the hockey game, as he's getting home, he sees her waiting behind that little picket fence near the yard. So he drops off Ethan, gets her mom, and they follow them. And when they get close, because they see her actually go into the graveyard and they pull up with the car, she can see the headlights. And of course, once Slappy knows it's the parents, he does his age-old thing where he pretends to be...
Goes limp.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Brittany's not done. She's not taking that. So she grabs Slappy's head and slams it into this glass case where the mind stealer is, and makes sure that he touches the mind stealer. And then he's gone.
She sees the evil grin on the mind stealer's face. and she gives the dummy back to the parents and says, listen, I'm not going to bury it. I know this was crazy, but I'm not going to talk about this dummy being alive anymore. She's like, everything's over and done. Because they're talking about bringing her to a doctor now.
Oh, yeah, they think that she's...
Yeah, but they do this in a really nice, really sympathetic way. They're like, listen, we know this has been hard on you, and we need to get you some help, and we're going to, get you a doctor first thing in the morning. Right. And she's like, no, you know what, there's no need. She's like, I'm done with all this stuff. It's fine. She gives them the dummy. She's like, you can take that and put that in the car. And she's like, I'll be along in a minute. I just have to, fix up what I've done here.
Right.
So she reburies the Mind Stealer, and as she's burying it,
it calls out to her saying, he'll be back.
Of course he says, I'll get my revenge. I'll be back. So this is the dummy's revenge we're talking about, by Revenge of the Dummy. His mind is in the Mind Stealer, and he's already plotting that he's going to get revenge on Brittany.
So what did you think of this?
Thought it was great. I loved it.
I did too. I liked, I'm big into anthropology, archaeology, folklore. That's
the
why
minute it had anything to do with shrunken heads, I was like, oh, Jen's gonna love this.
I'm all in. Let's go, story. And I like that it does an introduction and then it comes back to say, hey, I'm still here, and then it's what is Slappy's undoing.
It's very short and sweet, but at the same time, it's all the usual dummy notes, but not in the usual way.
No.
So the main conflict here is more so about the parents learning to accept Brittany, and also about Brittany learning to accept her cousin. I mean, yes, what he did was really mean, super mean.
Yeah.
But it's kind of forgotten after you're faced with an actual, really live dummy.
Exactly. So the different characteristics of the story where the two cousins, the two main kids, actually get along, and she tries to involve him willingly.
She does, and even though it's somewhat forced involvement from her parents, it's not super forced, and she really is making a real effort with him.
And she's just told to be nice.
And for the most part, she does get along with him. There's not as much infighting as you normally see between the character with the dummy and the character that doesn't, right? There's usually a big conflict between those two kids that the dummy symbolizes.
And go ahead.
Yeah, so in this case, I think the difference was because she really did like a lot of the same jokes and a lot of the exact same things Ethan liked. I think the problem here was more so that they were too similar. They were too much like each other, and that was where the conflict came from. Was that they were too much alike. How sometimes people don't quite gel just because they're too much the same.
Yeah, for sure. The personality is just there's not enough differences for them to get along.
Exactly.
The second one being that some of Mr. Bad Boy's doings, the rude jokes and the pushing antics and the paint one scene that we didn't talk about, where he dumps paint
where he dumps paint over the senior citizen. Those are all callbacks to things that have happened that Slappy's actually done before.
Right, but it was Ethan who was doing it with the remote control helping him. So this is also, I think, the first time in a Slappy book where it was actually the person who was controlling the dummy doing the bad things at first, instead of Slappy being from the start being
the only other time we saw that was with Rocky in book 3. But the cousin was controlling Rocky, not Slappy.
Right. But this is so it's kind of like that, but with Slappy. So those differences are kind of refreshing since we're getting this far into the Slappy series.
Yeah. And it was nice to see the callbacks in that way and not have them go to a predictable place.
Right.
I also really loved that, and we've already said this, but I don't care. I love that the dad's job actually played a role in this.
Absolutely.
I love that the Mind Stealer actually came back, and it was actually used to wipe his mind.
Now, the dad did go away, like most of the parents in this, for an extended period of time. But, they talked about his career and how it played a really important part in this.
And the conclusion was fantastic. I just love how resourceful and quick thinking she was.
Absolutely.
Because, in that moment when he went limp, while she knew he was, playing dumb for her parents, because she was able to have a whole conversation with her parents before she slammed him and then gave him back to them. She was in that moment thinking, well, he's going to stay like this. This is what I'm going to do, and, end it.
Yeah.
It was very good thinking.
Absolutely.
And he didn't see it coming.
No. This was good. I enjoyed it.
It was super good. I even liked the cliffhanger. I didn't even mind the fact that Slappy was coming from the Mind Stealer all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It was just good. It was fun.
It was, yep.
Did we have any other main points we wanted to cover? I feel like we got most things. Oh, wait. No. I know what we haven't said.
What's that?
I have problems with how her mom was introduced.
Okay. What are your problems?
Okay, so we're only 11 pages in.
Yep.
This all happens on page 11. And the introducing line for her mom is, and she's kind of pretty, except her black framed glasses make her look like a philosophy professor or something. Like that's a bad thing? So here's my thing. Is this trying to say that looking educated makes you look unattractive if you're a woman? Is that what this is saying?
We're gonna fight.
Like, it's either A, glasses are unattractive, or B, a woman can't be smart and pretty, or C, both, and I don't like any of those options. Like, it really, it was one little line, and it was near the beginning, and the rest of it was very good, but that really got under my skin.
So what are they saying? Or are they attacking philosophy professors, saying they're all, you know...
They're all stuffy fuddy-duddies.
Yes.
Like, have you never heard of hot for teacher? I am telling you, the woman is smoking.
We're going to list down in the
and
description.
intelligent, and let's leave it at that.
We're going to list down in the description below a bunch of movies where the teachers are not bad on the eyes.
Listen, everybody thinks the teacher is hot.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I just, no, it was just, like I said, it was one of those, like, minor things, but it was one of those minor things that really just, like, stuck out at me.
Doesn't R.L. Stein have glasses, like black frame glasses?
He does have large black framed glasses, and I think it might have been a poke at himself and the fact that maybe he doesn't like his glasses, but which, I mean, it probably is, but again, there's a thing about context and how context matters, and to frame it in that way and to say a woman is pretty, except, like, it really sounds bad and really comes off bad.
And if younger people are reading this and they don't have good self-esteem or confidence and they read that and they have black frame glasses, and instead of saying, well, you're entitled to your opinion so you can, you know, leave, they might be taking it to heart.
Well, they might think, you know, oh, well, that's why I get made fun of for wearing glasses. Because that is a common thing that happens. Because kids see glasses and they don't know what they are. And they're like, oh, that's silly. And
what they don't get is that we can take off our glasses and pretend we don't see you and not be considered rude.
Tricks of the trade, folks. You heard it here first.
Young. But there's no fat shaming in this.
There's not, actually.
I did notice that.
I did notice that too, but we haven't seen any of that in any of the HorrorLand books so far.
Right.
I think by the time we're into HorrorLand, we're far enough ahead in time because it's 2008. We're out of the 90s.
Yeah. That's not a thing anymore.
Things are already starting to be looked at differently and talked about differently, and kids are being spoken to in a different way as well.
Yeah.
So we're already into enough of a cultural shift that I think this is now a thing of the earlier books.
So now he's trying to replace that with something else.
Well, there's still weird things about female characters, about like not like other girls and different weird things like that still seem to be coming up. But
he's trying-ish.
He's definitely trying, and like I said, it may have just been a miscommunication about like the fact that he wears glasses and is self-conscious, because
maybe
he does do a lot of self-depreciating humor.
So maybe that's just his kind of line.
Yeah, but at the same time, that was not well thought through. It really makes it sound like she can't be smart and pretty at the same time. It's not. Because, and the only reason I say that is because they throw in the philosophy professor line. So like, obviously someone educated.
Highly educated.
So highly educated can't be very pretty as well. Like that's kind of what that reads like. At least it did to me anyway. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
We look forward to listening or reading them.
For sure.
And if you don't want to leave them in the comments below and you want to get on Twitter and kind of rant and roar, that's fine too. Be sure to hashtag us at GBC Goes Next Door.
You can reach Jennifer at coffee_with_Jen.
Yes, and you can reach Mandy at a glitter macaroon.
Yes, with 1 T and 2 O's.
Yes. And I'm like trying to spell it in my head while I'm trying to say it, and I'm like, too many things.
That's okay, I said your totally wrong handle. From like back when we were first starting the series before you had like a new Twitter. It's good. Fine. It's all good.
We're old pros now.
Right? It's not like we haven't been doing this for how long? Oh, I don't know, a year and some change. I like how I checked an imaginary watch for that and not like a calendar somewhere.
It's the end of the week and it's been a week.
And boy, howdy, has it been a week. So please do tell us your thoughts on this story, if you liked it or not, what you thought of the characters and the character development, because I thought Brittany went on a really good arc here. Mm-hmm. Until next time, reader beware.
You're in for a scare. That was fun.
The end got a little weird randomly, but it's okay. Stupid bin. Didn't give me much corner space. That's a corner went right into my leg.
That's gonna leave a bruise.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It's gonna be blue.
It's gonna be a little tiny pointy bruise.
A rash.
Okay. That even hurts the muscle when you sit.
Oh.
That's it.
I'm constantly running
I
in.
will suffer for